Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Zero Fucks Given Podcast. This is episode 31, and once again, I'm with the beautiful Chris DeLeon.
Love you.
We were on a few minutes ago, and we were talking about, we ended the show talking about Christian Rainey, Stoner, and Aaron Youngblood, and the great guys of e-fetting. We're going to continue that conversation.
Absolutely.
Yes, Christian Rainey, I honestly got to say, along with him, Stoner, and Aaron, they are the hardest workers in e-fed. Straight up, those guys bust their asses day in and day out to bust promos, tweets, segments, everything. Stoner, hard worker. Aaron, hard worker. Rainey, hard ass worker. Rainey is mixing real life into this shit too. Like, he's working, he's got a girlfriend. I'm working, I got a girlfriend. Rainey,
I'm working, I got a wife.
And an ass load of kids, beautiful kids, and it's just, everybody makes excuses. Oh, I got a girlfriend. Oh, you're just, shut the fuck up. You just have excuses. You talk about Rainey a lot. Well, I'm going to get you to switch off of Rainey for a minute.
Fine.
Talk about, like, your overall outlook on e-fetting.
I think, you know what? Some people talk about shooting from the hip. I'm going to shoot from the hip. I know this is going to make me sound old, but, you know, it's a video promo without being video. So many guys are just like, you know, world titles are handed out like fucking candy these days.
Pretty strong.
Like anybody can win a title these days. Like I said, I'm gonna shoot Torrance. How the fuck does Torrance win a title when he can't cut a promo to save his life? None that I've ever seen. And by the way, I can't wait for night 2 to beat his ass. And night 1 to beat Miguel's ass. Now, I will say real quick.
You made the poster.
Yes, I did. I saw that. Although I should have been large and the other person should have been small, but it's okay. I made the poster. That's all that matters. Miguel seems to be on that cusp of getting to where Aaron and Stoner and Christian Rainey are, that if he can just stop being a follower, you know, if he could stop that kid's got a lot of potential, because I mean, he writes matches. I mean, when I was running GWF 2.0, I mean, he literally just would write a match. Hey, you need a match written, and he writes matches for you. But as far as like e-fetting goes, there's absolutely zero. Okay, there's a very small amount of respect left. And
we were talking about that the other night.
And there's a, you know, it's not real. You know, we're not really wrestling. Those aren't real titles. These aren't real Hall of Fame rings. But you would think the way some of these people talk, that, you know, that they had won real actual belts and had real actual Hall of Fame rings.
Well, see, with me, when I look at the e-fed world, you know, this is, for some of us, this is a dream that will never come true. This is what we got. And it's supposed to be fun and entertaining and make us feel like real wrestlers. And I'm fine with that. But then there are some of us that take it way too far in a very technical way. They go way too far. They go way too far, and they make shit.
They get a little too technical about it.
I mean, I've had my moments where I've been a little technical about some things, but I've cleaned up my act. I think I've gotten more humble and more respectful along the way. And DRW's goal from now on is to bring honor and respect back. Like, that's why you see all these young guys getting shot. Steve Starkiller Smith, I'm so high on this guy right now. He's such a hard worker. He's got class, respect, pizzazz, and jazz, and it just, the dude is great.
I want to go ahead and talk about those two things right there. Steve Starkiller Smith and respect. The faction, I'm bringing the faction back. We've already talked about the faction, you and I, you have your views on factions and stuff, and we really won't get into that because I know how you feel about all that stuff.
Yeah.
But the faction used to be about just absolutely taking over and being like an NWO DX kind of thing. But the thing about it is that the faction now is about taking these young guys and the guys that deserve respect already, and building those guys up like me and I gotta remember who it was because I have so many names that I like to talk about. Anyways, I have a group of guys that I'm trying to help bring up, and the guys have really earned my respect. And unfortunately, there's some guys that have earned my respect that just don't want to be part of the faction, and I'm okay with that. And there's some guys that earn my respect that I don't want in the faction because I feel like they'd be better off kind of doing their own thing. It's kind of like almost like a nexus, you know. Is kind of what I'm trying to do. Is like give them an opportunity to grow and then branch out on their own, like Heath Slater. I mean, look what's happened to that guy. I mean, you can joke about him all you want to, but they put Heath Slater over big time. I mean, all the legends came in and beat up on Heath Slater. I mean, everybody knows who Heath Slater is. He's the modern day Brooklyn Brawler. Everybody knows who he is. I love that guy. Slater's gonna slay.
Slater's gonna slay. Gator's gonna gate.
Well, but here's the thing is about, and Steve Starkiller Smith. That guy
is amazing.
I don't know him. I never, out of character, never met him. Never had any interaction with the guy. All I've done is, hey, you should come wrestle for GWF. Never said anything back. Okay.
Steve, to me, Steve Starkiller Smith, he's the one guy, he doesn't matter where on the card he's working, opener to main event, give him a match, he's going to bust his ass and make it the match of the night. The first time I booked Taven Omega versus Steve Starkiller Smith this past SmackDown, it was mid-card. By the end of it, it was co-main event. I was so proud that they boosted that match the way they did. And I was like, hats off to you. Hats off to I've never seen anybody to take a match that was regularly put in the mid-card and make it the co-main event. Me and Randy, we're making ours the main event. It's not legitimately the main event, but that's the main event. It matters of the determination, the respect, the humbleness, the fact that he loves this. He has passion. That's nothing. Passion. Chicago Cubs suck. Royals are better. Anyway, hold on, we'll get into that one. Passion. There's not a lot of guys that have passion.
Hang up on.
There's not a lot of guys that have passion anymore. They'll be booked and be like, oh, give me a world title. That's all I want.
You know what? We're talking about shit with him, right?
Yeah.
And you brought that up. I don't know if I'm saying his name wrong or not. I think we actually talked about this.
Milorad.
Whatever. That guy, I have seen him talk about how good he is. How good he is. And how good he is. And how good he is. And how good he is. You know how many promos I've seen out of that guy? Zero.
Zero.
Yes. I've never seen that guy cut a promo. All I've ever seen him do is bitch and whine and complain.
Josh fucking Knight.
I've seen some promos out of Josh.
Okay, that's true.
I've actually seen it, and he smack talked me once, and I didn't say anything back because he's already on the bad side of one of my best friends, Nikki Nightmare.
Oh, he's on my bad side too.
So I'm like, you can have that battle all you want.
No, my problem with Josh, when I first met him, we kind of clicked. Kind of. And then we were talking about doing something, how Daniel Bryan and Punk were the beard and the best. I forgot what the team name was, but goddamn was it good. And it could have worked. It could have worked, but Knight ran his mouth. He said that he hated me. That's beautiful. He said that he hated me and shit.
Since nobody can see it, you can tell everybody what I just showed you.
The Civil War, is that the comic book or is that just the poster?
Oh, that's the comic book. That's
the comic book of the Civil War between Spider-Man and Captain America.
No,
You have the Iron Man one and Captain America too, don't you?
Yes, I have everything.
That may have been Iron Man. Was it not Spider-Man?
It's Iron Man, but Spider-Man's on the cover too.
Oh, I didn't see Iron Man. My bad. But I mean, I'm so glad there's guys that have passion again. Then you just, and I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna call Curtis Strong out. I talked to Curtis Strong on Skype once. I like the guy. He seems very humble and respective. Until you look at HOPW and EWC. Throwback Thursday 3. B-Tech wins the world title and hands it to Curtis Strong. Curtis Strong could have done the respectful thing and said, I'll fight for it. But he doesn't. He takes the world title and he calls himself a world champion. I don't know much about you, but in my opinion, that doesn't make you a world champion.
I have to 100% agree. I wasn't handed a title, but like I won the title, and the company shut down. So I wasn't,
You weren't a fighting champion.
I couldn't be.
Yeah, that's not your point. But that's not your point. That's not what I meant to say. That's not your fault. That's not your fault.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that shit like that's happened to me all the time. I mean, shit. Attitude won the WCW World Heavyweight title. They shut down. Granted, I walked out with the title. That's different. But I mean, respect needs to come back. The fact of actually calling yourself a champion and being a world champion, two different things. People need to draw that line. But let's get into another discussion. We talked about your King of the Ring Fed. What are your thoughts on like all these other there's like difference between little E-Feds and big E-Feds. So what do you think about the little E-Feds popping up?
I am not really seeing the little E-Feds. I'm not aware of any little E-Feds. I am seeing that. I am seeing that HOPW is trying to get a little bit more bigger. I see DRW. For me, DRW is. I like HOPW. Don't get me wrong, but I see for me that for me DRW is a place that I can really do something different and special. I see that EWC is a place that I can kind of possibly do some special stuff there, but I'm not really sure because I was going to leave EWC and then I talked to Zach, so I'm not going anywhere. The other Fed that you and I talked about, Watchtower, Dark
Watchtower Entertainment.
I like that place, but it seems like it's too big, and I kind of want to reserve what I'm gonna do over there. I really like Joel Sylvie's Fed IWC. It's a tweet based, which I never thought that I would get into that, but it's kind of cool. But as far as little Feds coming up, I'm not really paying attention to anything that's not and I feel bad being a veteran and saying this, but I'm not paying attention to anything that I'm not in.
There you
or
go.
one of my guys isn't in. And when I say my guys, I say, I have my faction guys.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna name them off because I got their names right in front of me. They're the ones that have been revealed. I have a masked man who I'm not going to reveal who he is because for storyline purposes he's got a mask on. There's Mr. Mayhem Surge. He is a masked wrestler, but we all know who he is. There's Josh Collins and Zach Zero.
There you go.
And then there is who's my other guy? Christopher J. Miller.
That guy's
He's
amazing.
my other one.
I wanna pick your mind about something. This is switching the subject from E-Fed to real wrestling. You're a big Bret Hart fan, so I really hope I get some good detail in this answer. 1997.
Oh, Lord.
Survivor Series.
Everybody wants to talk to me about this. Everybody. I literally feel like I'm like, well, we can't get Bret Hart, so let's get a big Bret Hart fan to talk about it.
I don't know Bret Hart. I apologize. I would get Bret Hart to talk about it if I had his information. But the Montreal Screwjob. When I watched the Montreal Screwjob and I watched the whole story behind it, what happened afterwards. In my opinion, you're going to get a little heated about this, and I apologize, but remember, this is just my opinion. I don't respect what Bret Hart was going to do. I don't like how he got very egotistical in it, but I do understand why he wouldn't want to drop it in Montreal. But, I mean, they apparently, from what Jim Cornette has said, and I didn't get the information from Vince McMahon, I got it from Jim Cornette. He said that they gave Bret Hart several dates, several options on which to drop the title before Montreal. He's like, no, fuck you guys. I'm not dropping it ever. I'm going to walk out with it. He didn't say fuck you guys, but, I'm saying he said fuck you guys. He said something along those lines. No, I'm not walking out with it. The Montreal Screwjob, no. I'm not, you're not taking my belt. And it just irritates me, and then it gets heated. Oh, and some guy just said, Boo Bear via Spreaker said, Vince was a dick for doing that. Vince was a dick. He was a dick for doing the Montreal Screwjob the way he did. But at the same time, Bret was a dick for not wanting to do the drop. What are your thoughts, DeLeon?
As a lifelong fan of Bret Hart, and in retrospect, watching Wrestling with Shadows, Bret versus Shawn, Greatest Rivalries, I mean, reading Bret's book and just everything that you could possibly know about that night and everything surrounding it, I think that, and being on the independent scene myself, I just want to put that out there. For all those people in defense that want to talk about me, I did actually book and manage in a real life wrestling company. So when you tell me I can't run a Fed, fuck you. So if I put myself in Vince's shoes, I have to understand that it is what needed to be done. Would I have done it that way? Probably not. It really depends on what options are given. I would have let Bret win that night, and then let him go to WCW and do some sort of. I mean, it was so wide open to do a cross promotion thing. You send Bret Hart to WCW with your belt. Well, Ric Flair's already been. And I don't know if Ric Flair had come before or after, but he had already come. He had already done. They already did the Real World Champion thing before or after. I can't remember. Before, because it was like 91 or 92 when that happened. But the door was wide open to do some great interpromotional stuff and to put WCW over by putting the WWF title on television because, it may have been before or after, but Batista came over with the women's title and dropped it in his trash can.
Well, see, okay, Brett's contract, Vince knew months before that Brett's contract was almost up.
He knew, and not only that, if you think about it, you fast forward it, he worked that whole storyline with CM Punk.
Exactly. Well, see, my thing is, why couldn't they, he knew months before. He knew where he wanted to go. He was going to go to WCW because WWF would not offer him enough money.
Thank you.
I would have, if I was Vince, putting myself in Vince's shoes, I've never been an actual Federation owner in real life, but I've been DRW owner for fucking 2 years. So I think I know a little bit what I'm talking about. I would have called Tim Turner. That's his name, right? Tim Turner? Ted Turner, whatever. Ted Turner. I would have called Billionaire Ted, and I would have been like, hey, Brett wants to come to WCW. You know I could buy you right now. So, let's do this. Brett's going to walk out with my title. I want him to walk out on Nitro with it. I want him to talk about how he was done with WWF. I want him to talk about how no one in WWF could lace his boots. I want to have a crossover. WCW's WWF champion Bret Hart versus WWF's #1 contender Brooklyn Brawler Shawn Michaels, whatever. Let's put it on pay-per-view. Let's both make money. I don't think Billionaire Ted would have turned it down.
No, he wouldn't have.
I think Eric Bischoff would have been the little birdie in his ear, been like, no. But Billionaire Ted, backhand to Eric, bitch, know your place. And, okay, at that time, maybe WWF couldn't afford to buy it, Pooh Bear, but still, it's a good idea. It is a very good idea. He could have done that. Could have, would have, should have, but he didn't, and shit happened like it did. I'm glad that, 12 years later, Brett was able to make amends with everybody. Him and Shawn could hug it out.
Look at it this way. And I've had so many people talk to me about this, that it was real, and then there's the shoot conspiracy, that it was a work.
Yeah, that's still a conspiracy.
Well, here's the thing. It's just like when you and I talk about Chris Benoit. No matter what happened. Okay?
Benoit.
No matter what happened, if it was a work or a shoot, look at the fucking DVD sales. That just from them patching things up. The DVD sales of Bret stuff. The Bret Hart merchandise before they made their things better between them. I mean, Bret Hart's book is a great selling book. I have a ton of Bret Hart merchandise from WWE.
And granted, Ted would have Boo Bear, I get your point. It never would have happened because Ted and WCW was way above the shit that WWF was spewing out. But it would have pushed WWF, and maybe the Attitude Era maybe wouldn't have had to happen. But it's whatever. Now, with 6 minutes remaining, DeLeon, I'm going to ask a question. This is a very controversial question for wrestling fans. But I
don't have an opinion on the Caitlyn Jenner thing.
No, I'm not going to ask you about Caitlyn Jenner. It is a very controversial question among wrestling fans and pro wrestling fans and sports entertainers. What are your opinions about the Chris Benoit conspiracy? Do you honestly think that he murdered his wife and child and then off himself?
Absolutely not.
Me too, because
the reason why is, and I'll tell people why. I have a box in my closet.
Yeah.
And it has literally every newspaper clipping from and magazines and stuff like that. I followed that case from the get-go. And nothing screams frame this guy for murder more than this whole situation. Now, I will say this, for those that are listening that think he did it, I will say in their defense, Nobody knows what happened except Chris, Nancy, and Daniel.
Now, okay, I was listening to the Talk is Jericho podcast that he had with Chavo Guerrero, and Chavo was on the phone with Benoit hours prior to this, to where Nancy should have already been dead. Like, right. Nancy, I think, died first, then it was Daniel, then it was Chris. And by the time frame that Chavo's on the phone with Chris, Nancy should have already been dead. Chavo says he heard Nancy in the background talking to Chris. Then Chris sounded like really forceful when he was like, I love you, Chavo. He wasn't like, hey, Chavo, I love you, man, I'll talk to you later. It was, Chavo, I love you. Then he had a knock at the door, and he's like, hold on, somebody's knocking my door. There was a scuffle, then the phone hung up. I'm sorry. I do not believe Benoit killed Nancy, Daniel, and then himself. Because in the autopsy, at the evidence scene, there was alcohol and steroids. I don't know if steroids was found. I don't remember that part. But alcohol was not found in his system.
And here's the other thing is that the whole hanging thing on the weight machine, I don't buy it. I don't buy it.
Benoit's a tough son bitch. I don't buy it.
I don't buy it. Not that neck. Sorry. Not that neck.
The neck was surgically repaired.
Look at that neck. You see that neck? You see that neck? Can you see that neck?
That is very Rabid Wolverine-ish neck.
Yeah, that is a big neck. That is a bank-use memorabilia, baby. Bam.
Yes, that is great memorabilia. Like, my whole thing with the Benoit thing, in Mark's, wasn't it like his death date was 10 years after Kevin Sullivan and Woman's marriage, like the anniversary? Wasn't it on their anniversary date? And Kevin Sullivan is a satanic cult leader, and he hated Chris?
And he said that he would kill Chris.
He said that he would kill Chris. That's why, at the time, Sullivan was nowhere allowed to be around Chris.
Now, I will say this. Kevin Sullivan has been booked and interviewed and all sorts of stuff. Nobody, maybe early on, somebody asked him about it, but nobody asks him about it. Nobody says anything about it.
I would.
But here's the thing is that I remember everything about that whole time. The Nancy Grace.
Fuck that bitch. Fuck that bitch.
And the interviews about Benoit and I have on WrestlingFlashback.com, I actually play the tribute show every once in a while. And I remember the next night tuning in to ECW and him going, we'll never, something to the effect of, we'll never talk about him again.
Yeah, because he was like, due to the results of the case and the autopsy, we will never talk about Chris Benoit or his legacy ever again. And that's bullshit, because we did not know Christopher, whatever his middle name is, I'm pretty sure Benoit was not his last name. Was it his real name?
Christopher Michael Benoit.
We never knew Christopher Michael Benoit. We knew the Rabid Wolverine, Chris Benoit. We knew the technician. We knew the professional wrestler. We knew him for his ring, his mic, and everything else skills that had to do within the business.
And not to plug the website, but I do want to say that one of the main reasons that I started WrestlingFlashback.com was because of all the fucking Benoit footage I have. Now they play it on the network with their little fucking disclaimer.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, like, I have tons of Benoit footage. Like,
you know what? I'm going to request. You don't have to play the tribute show, but I do request I want to see on WrestlingFlashback.com tonight the three-way where Benoit wins the world title.
Oh, WrestleMania 20?
Yeah. We have 20 seconds left.
Love everybody listening. Keep listening to Zero Fucks Given podcast from number 32 on. Just keep listening and keep being loyal. And if you're an E-Feder, remember, you're here to have fun. Chris DeLeon out.
Till then, take care of yourself and each other. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you.